Hello and welcome to the Digital Assets Report. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. With me today, Todd Morley, the founder and chairman of G2 Investment Group and also the co-founder of Y2X. So we're going to hear more about that. Also, Vince Molinari, welcome,
hey,
CEO of Temple Markets. Always great to have you
great
here.
To be here.
So Todd, let's talk about just your companies are in the blockchain space, correct? So what do you think is the power, the impact of blockchain?
Blockchain might be the most powerful move that we have ever witnessed. When the internet democratized information, and now we think that the blockchain, the peer-to-peer network supported by protocols like the blockchain, will empower people to do business in a very different way.
Okay.
And so it'll be maybe the most disintermediating force we've ever seen.
Well, I hear that, like it could be even bigger than the internet. Kind of how will we be living in 20, 30 years, and how will blockchain change that?
I think that people will make individual choices. Local preference will drive things like investment decision. People today, particularly young people, 94% of millennials have impact on their mind. And so people want to know where their money is going. They want more accountability. And so I think that you'll see that people will create new asset classes that heretofore weren't investable. And so I think that's going to happen faster than people think.
That's interesting. Now, Vince, you work a lot with impact and blockchain. So do you see eye to eye with Todd on all this?
Absolutely, and I think, look, to Todd's credit to his career and why this is so powerful, when Todd comes out and says something, that going back to Guggenheim Partners, and I don't want to misstate it, but I think there was $300 billion of assets under management at Guggenheim that Todd was part of. So when Todd makes a statement that the power of blockchain and what's happening here is so powerful, you have to take pause and listen. So I think when we overlay blockchain, transparency, immutable nature, the connectivity of diaspora communities, fan bases, affinity groups, to initiatives that they're passionate about that could be funded as well, is really paradigm changing.
Now, Todd, so Vince mentioned Guggenheim Partners. How did you go from there to founding two blockchain companies?
Just to pick up on one thing that Vince said, when we started Guggenheim in 1999-2000, there was something like $100 billion allocated to what the world was calling alternative asset strategies. Today it's probably $6 trillion. And so our view then was that mutual funds had come to a certain point, let's call those passive strategies, and that active strategies were about to really take over, and they did. And so my vision now, I think our collective vision, is that that's about to happen again in favor of sort of the peer-to-peer network. So things that, as I mentioned, things that aren't investable now will be tokenized, which is kind of a different way of saying securitized. And individuals with $100, $1,000 will be able to invest in, say a growing area in Bushwick, Brooklyn, which looks like it's going to be the next sort of tech crypto center. So that's what we see.
So, and you're particularly working with financial services and blockchain, correct?
Well, not necessarily. It's basically entrepreneurs and technologists who can benefit. When I say benefit, we want to be able to demonstrate mathematically why they're better off in that world than in the old investment paradigm, the old world.
Okay, and Y2X, does that kind of tie into this way of thinking?
Y2X is an homage to the great work of Ray Kurzweil, as in Y equals 2 to the X power. It's the math of the law of accelerating returns, which basically says that information technologies like Moore's law will double every 12 to 18 months. And we think that this part of the world is doing exactly that.
So for somebody who's a communications major, but interested in investing, like how could I take advantage of something like that?
As individuals, we think that digital exchanges will pop up everywhere. You'll have digital exchanges on your iPhone, and you'll say, wow, I just walked by an area that I'm sure is going to be a developing area, and I'd like to own 3 buildings. We can't do that now.
No.
And so you'll say, I'll put 10 coins in that one and 10 in that one. It's hard for individuals to own art, and you might be a Van Gogh fan, and soon those will be digitized and you can create your own art portfolio.
Mind-blowing, actually.
It really is.
I mean, how do you see this all playing out?
I think key to Todd's point here, right, when you take illiquid or non-traded assets, they typically trade at a discount when you have to find some liquidity. So I think by giving transparency and exchange-like mechanisms where there are alternative trading systems where people can find liquidity, I think you see compression, if you would, of that discount. In fact, I take it a step further when you talk about if you could invest in a Van Gogh or a trophy piece of real estate, there's probably going to be a premium associated with that because you're opening up the opportunity to those who haven't historically had the opportunity to invest. So better liquidity, better price discovery, and I think it begins to have some of those instruments trading to a premium.
Well, that's what I'm seeing is this democratization of the economy. I mean, somebody who doesn't have $1 million to invest in a townhome in Brooklyn can have a little piece of that and still benefit from appreciation of price.
To follow on Vince's point, so global real estate markets are estimated to be larger than $200 trillion. And so if you take that liquidity premium of, let's say, 20 to 30%, so that's $40 to $60 trillion of value that is theoretically locked up in real estate. Okay, so US stock markets are approximately 30 trillion, so maybe 2x the value of US stock markets locked up just in real estate.
I mean, it's utterly amazing, really. So, and you also work with the United Nations on some of the blockchain concepts. So I want you both to address that. Like, how can this actually be applied to make the world a better place?
Well, it's the ultimate empowering moment, right? Empowerment means transfer of power. And so when people can bet with their hearts and their brains, they're empowered. And so a country that is an emerging country, a citizen of that country has no access to capital markets, now they will.
And people will have, I mean, I know there's things being done with cell phones. People can have minutes transferred into coins. I mean, there's really like a whole new world here for people. So, Vince, anything to add to the UN?
Yeah, sure. I think when you look at the UN, you look at development finance agencies, you look at NGOs globally, when we're now opening up access to capital, that can be for profit. So let's keep that in mind. And we like to say profit creates sustainability, and that sustainability is systemic change. When we could open that up to touch the 7th billionth person on the earth and create opportunity, because with that opportunity there is hope, there is less conflict, and there's self-reliance. We don't know when we could connect that early stage entrepreneur in a rural community with capital. They may be the next Einstein. They may have the next piece of innovation that they wouldn't have ordinarily had access to if not for these new technologies. So I truly think it's game changing when we talk about the benefit to humanity.
Yeah. And kind of timetable? I mean, will this be 30 years, 50 years? I mean, when will we be able to see this?
Well, following the y equals 2 to the x power, this is going to probably go even faster than doubling. Moore's law would have been y equals 2 to the 55th power.
Things are just moving faster.
It's going to
even
double
in the past
faster
5 years, things have moved
every
really,
12 months. When I haven't seen someone for a month, I say, gee, where should we start? We've already changed that quickly. But it really taps into this notion of the wisdom of crowds. If you allow people to make decisions, generally speaking, they'll make them in a more wise fashion than centralized elite governing bodies, economists and so on. And so people on the street will now be able to vote with their minds, with their hearts, with their feet, and that's a revolutionary idea.
You know, it totally is, and I think you're absolutely right. People care much more about where their money is going these days. I mean, in terms of, is it helping someone? Where is it sourced? I mean, I see it in my kids, and they're still pretty young, but that's a big trend. So thank you so much, Todd. Fascinating. We could talk forever. Thank you as always, Vince, for being here. And thank you as well for joining us on the Digital Assets Report. I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. Have a great day.